Hello, everybody. Good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I'm joined by Levin. How you doing, pal?
Doing good. The world's treating me rather well, so I'm feeling good tonight.
It is. I mean, look, it's a very quick turnaround. We had that game on Wednesday, and then we've got a game at 12:30 tomorrow. So it's a very, very quick turnaround, and lots to discuss tonight. We're going to talk a bit about transfers. Madrid want Cavani, Brozovic linked to United, midfielder. So we'll talk about that. Also going to talk a bit about Donny, and obviously not in the Netherlands squad. Everyone's talking about Donny at the moment. But I do want to start off the show talking about Jadon Sancho with a little bit of Cristiano Ronaldo in it. I've started to see. We're basically going to talk about Sancho and he probably won't start tomorrow, which is, 2 months into the season nearly, and another international break. Where is this going with Sancho? How does he get in the team when Rashford comes back? We'll talk about it in a minute. But one thing I just want to start off with, and everyone can get involved in this if they want, and Kev's in the chat. Hello, Kev. The Ronaldo situation, I don't know whether you saw it today. They were talking about, Ronaldo not pressing from the front, which he's never done anyway. Even 12 years ago, he never did that. But so I'm starting to see people, I suppose it's normal. There's always the great thing about football is that somebody's got every different opinion you can have. There's a few people starting to say that, Ronaldo is one of the greatest players in the world, but will he ultimately end up being a bad thing for the team? Because, he'll play every minute. It's all about Ronaldo, and will it affect us as a team? What's your thoughts on that before I have my say?
It's a weird one. I think people are always going to look to try and say something about us, right? To fit whatever narrative they have. It's weird because I don't even get that where if you actually look at certain things, we're not playing to Ronaldo, right? As much as you'd maybe expect we should, right? Ronaldo comes into the team, people expect, we start getting more crosses into the box. You look at the crossing numbers, we're like below average when it comes to the rest of the Premier League in terms of crosses. It's not, I don't really know, Mark, how I feel about the people who are trying to make it seem like a bad thing. Because like you said, that's a known thing. He doesn't press. Messi is the exact same, right? They don't really press. They don't do much defensive work. We knew that already. So I don't really get the purpose of, people trying to spin it as if it's a bad thing, as if it's something we never knew was going to happen. I'm not too bothered about it.
I was going to ask you this anyway, because you like your tactics. I mean, regardless, we know Cavani presses, and we saw that in the last 15 minutes. He's relentless, and he caused a few problems with that on Wednesday night. But we don't press very well as a team anyway. So what we're basically saying is, he's not a headless chicken running around, which is what Cavani does a lot of the time. And sometimes it works. But the whole point of pressing is you press as a team, and we're not very good at it anyway. So I don't see an issue, really.
I think the only reason why you could perceive there would be an issue is that in some of the bigger games, right, against teams who are better, who maybe have good centre backs who are good on the ball, we've had performances from players who will press and it's effective, right? Martial, people will say Martial doesn't work hard, he's lazy or whatever, but he doesn't seem interested. In big games, there's been times when he will do a great job of pressing and making it difficult for opposition centre backs to have time and pick out passes. And so in that sense, yeah, you could look at it and go, well, in those games, what happens now? Because Ronaldo isn't necessarily going to do that. But, we've seen bigger problems. Ultimately, in those kind of games, I'm not too worried either. We probably will look to just contain teams rather than press them high up the pitch and look to hit them on the break, which is something we've done before. So I'm not worried about it, man. I think there's teams dealing with that problem. Elite teams deal with that problem. Like that actual graphic, you saw a lot of, the better strikers on that list were on better teams, right? The big teams deal with this. Look at flipping PSG, right? Poch has a bigger problem where he has 3 players that are like that who don't do any defending from the front. So, we'll deal with it. We'll handle it.
Yeah, and I think also with Ronaldo, I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's one of the world's best players, and what are we saying that we're better off without him? That's just a load of nonsense. But he's not a player that's coming in disrupting a well-working tactical setup. We're still very much struggling for that. So with Ronaldo there, I don't see much of an issue. Look, I'm not gonna before we talk about Sancho, I'm not gonna lie. There is of course a possibility that this might not work. The whole Ronaldo Manchester United thing might not work, and we might go, ultimately it's not worked for Ronaldo, it's not worked for United. But I don't think I saw a couple of people saying that Ronaldo is going to be a bad thing for United and a bad thing for him. It's not going to work out because he doesn't actually suit the way we want to play. What would you say about that? Because, I mean, the way we want to play is very counter-attacking anyway.
Well, there's truth to what these people are trying to say. I feel like they are taking it too far, because the reality of the Ronaldo signing is it wasn't, purely a football signing. If we were to make a purely football signing, it would have been for a holding midfielder, right? The reality of the Ronaldo signing is it was something that, we couldn't, for the sake of our own brand and protecting Manchester United, we couldn't allow him to go to City. That would have made us look bad. They didn't believe he was available this summer. We weren't in for striker. Outside of Ronaldo, we weren't hearing reports that we were going to sign a striker at the end of the window. It was a sort of thing where it's like, okay, we didn't plan to do this, but this is something we have to do. So from that point, yeah, you could argue, it wasn't purely for footballing reasons. And there are question marks, right, behind, the Ronaldo fit and how we work. But ultimately, you do sort of just look at it and go, he's Ronaldo, certain things will weigh themselves out. And we'll see over the course of the season. We will, I don't think everything's going to be perfect, if I'm being honest. I do think there are some concerns there. But ultimately, you can't deny the fact that he's had a great impact on the club, on the pitch and off the pitch. He scored important goals for us. He's been influential to the team and the backroom staff. It makes sense. It makes sense. And I'm happy with it. I don't think there's many people who are fans of the team, at least, complaining about it. And so I'm not worried at all.
Rashford will be back after the international break. He had his first sort of contact training today after a few weeks of just fitness training. So he should be back for the Leicester game, certainly in the squad, I would think. Developing the point, we want to talk about Jadon Sancho. That's one of the topics for tonight, the Sancho concern and Ollie's. I would describe it as fear with Sancho. I think at the moment he just doesn't know what quite right to do with him. You mentioned a good point there. Just before we delve into Sancho, we're going to talk a bit about Donny and Brozovic and Cavani as well. But the reality is, Ronaldo was an opportunist signing that we had to make. Do you think Sancho would be settled in more at Manchester United if we didn't have Ronaldo? Because that's an interesting point that people were saying that, Ronaldo coming in, has that sort of harmed Sancho in any way, do you think?
That's weird. I've not thought about it. It's weird. I think people are starting to look for reasons as to why Sancho isn't this sort of world beater straight away.
Because that's the question I was going to say. Why do you think Sancho at this point, 2 months into the season, £74 million player, very good player, why do you think he's struggling to settle at United? Because he is, let's be honest.
Yeah, well, I think you got to look at the system that he's coming into. Is there's so many factors into what make a footballer good in the first place, right? And what makes a footballer able to perform in the first place. There's so many different factors that he's having to deal with. I'm not surprised that there is an adjustment period. I think there's many people who, in the summer, before we even signed him, we always would say, look, if we get Sancho, there is going to be a bit of an adjustment period. And I think that's what we're seeing. We're not, he's not found the right fit. It's weird how, we all talked about him coming in playing off the right. He's barely played off the right? He's only had one game, I believe, where he's actually, started or played off the right. These things are going to come. And I get that, because I've even said myself, there are times where he doesn't look as confident. He doesn't look as comfortable. There's times where he seems out of sync with his teammates. You always see, every single game, I've seen him and Bruno having a back and forth where Bruno's shouting at him to do something or vice versa. So there is clearly still, time for things to click. And it's a shame, because I think with other managers, you won't get that, right? Where with other managers, people won't question it. They'll just assume, they'll come good. The general theme right around the club right now is people have questions of Ollie. And so people are questioning why this big signing isn't instantly making an impact. It's not an issue. You look at last season, he started off the season slow at Dortmund, right? Yeah. At Dortmund, where he had looked good before, he started off slow. Things will take time with Sancho. Just don't panic and don't turn on him. There's no real reason to turn on him.
No. And I think football can be quite short-sighted at times. And look, I get it. One player that comes to my mind, similar price tag, came in from a foreign league. I really liked him. He went to a rival. His name was Pepe. 2 years down the line, he's still very much not lived up to the price tag. There's moments, but he did well at United, actually, moments. But he hasn't settled. Now, I dispute and we'll get into, I tweet about it probably a couple of times a week. I'm not having this Sancho flop thing, because I agree with you. The conversations we had over the summer were that, I was convinced Bruno would hit the ground running. Ronaldo's going to hit the ground running. Sancho, I said from day one, he might take a bit of time to adjust. I think that's age. I think it's the type of player he is. It's his first run in the Premier League. So, but I think what's also been a factor in that, and I don't know whether you agree, is that maybe he would have took time anyway, but he's definitely going to take time when he's not starting and he's in and out of the team. It's hard to get a rhythm when he's in and out of the team. And I think someone said before he's only missed one game, but I don't think he hasn't started every game, far from it. You know, he's in and out. I know I think he started both Champions League games, but I felt that we played long ball for both of those games, certainly young boys in the first hour on Wednesday. And so for me, it's not a problem that he's taking time to adjust, but I think another factor is he's in and out of the team. And on top of that, we're not playing to his strengths. He is a possession footballer who likes to give and go, play triangles. In the final third, he's quite happy to say, let's keep it up here and knock it around. We don't play like that.
One of the actual big problems I've noticed with Sancho, right, is there are often times when he wants the ball, he will make a run and he doesn't receive it. And I think it's important sometimes to sort of identify the psychology behind that. Because, you know, people we think of it's almost like we think of footballers as robots. These are real people, right? Imagine you're on the football pitch and you're making a run constantly, like you're actually running. It's not even like you're jogging, you're making runs and you're not receiving the ball. After the time, wow, that starts to weigh on you, right? You know, there's also, you know, the things of, there is almost that pressure to sort of not make a mistake, right? Where we've seen where he will look to take somebody on and maybe be a bit more aggressive. But when these things don't work, you know, there's the criticism, you know, how you risk being hooked from the team and all these kind of things. So I think that's why we've sort of seen, you know, safe throw, right? Where people saying things and adding throw to it, right? We've seen a lot of safe throw because I think there's times when he's not gotten the ball.
I brought a smile to my face.
Do you know what I mean? I think there are times when he has been, you know, prone to playing a bit too safe and not being a bit, you know, aggressive and direct. In the first half of the Villarreal game, I thought he did it really well. I was really impressed and I was frustrated because there were times, again, where he was making runs like near the start of the game, right? The one where Ronaldo didn't slip it into him and he gave it to Bruno instead and Bruno shot, right? Like that is a moment where you think to yourself, if you get that pass, that could have gone complete. Like that could be the goal that he needs before everyone will shut up, right? So Sancho to me is fine, right? As Renate says in chat, Sancho to me is fine. You know, it's going to take time to sort of get the chemistry going between him and his teammates. That's the most important thing.
Here's an interesting one, and the chat get involved. Does he start for you tomorrow? And if he doesn't start, knowing that Rashford can't start but will be back for the next game, if he's not good enough to start tomorrow, he's sort of dropping down that pecking order, and we don't want another Van der Beek on the situation. Because we know, what I mean by that is that, yes, Sancho might take a bit of time, but we also know, and we've seen it with Donny and we've seen it with Pogba, Ollie will go with the same thing that he trusts over. What I'm trying to say is if Greenwood nails down right wing and Rashford comes back and nails down left wing, Sancho might find himself being a bit part player even by Christmas.
He has to start for me, Mark, and I'll tell you why. Tomorrow we're playing an Everton team who is missing some of their key players. It's an Everton team that even with their key players, they've been prone to sort of giving up possession and looking to hit teams in transition. If they're going to be playing against a low block, you need width, right? And the big thing in that Villarreal game is on the right-hand side, we were not keeping width well enough, right? Greenwood, being Greenwood, he likes to look to cut in and score in those sort of opportunities. You look at Sancho, he stayed incredibly wide and he stretched them out on that side of the pitch. But we need that on the right-hand side of the pitch. So to me, I'd start him on the right to help keep width and to do more of what he did in the first half. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I don't think he'll start tomorrow, but I agree I would start him if I were you. It's going to be very interesting how he goes tomorrow because to me, I still hope we're going to see Matic start because I think it'll make a massive difference against the low block. But I fear that we will see McTominay and Fred in that. Developing this Sancho thing then, and let's add a few other players in because I think people will find this quite interesting. Jadon Sancho, Donny van der Beek, Paul Pogba. If you're describing those three players, certainly if you were describing those three players probably 18 months ago before Donny signed for United, you'd be talking about three very exciting ballers. They're both at Manchester. They're all three of them at United, and they really do struggle to get in the starting 11. Bar Paul Pogba, who basically gets shoehorned on the left wing. I believe he's a midfielder. Is that something that, you know, fans should be concerned about, that we have these people who are universally, and until they sign for United, then people get bitter. But, you know, before Donny came to United, Arsenal fans would have liked him. I think Liverpool fans would have liked him. You know, Pogba, if he wasn't in a United shirt, I think a lot of people would want him. Before Sancho came to us, I know Liverpool wanted him. You know, these are good footballers. Is it a concern that they're not adapting to Manchester United? I'm not talking necessarily about Solskjaer, but they don't seem to be adapting, and they don't seem to be part of the plans either. Urgent party plans.
I don't think it's a matter of them adapting. I wouldn't say that. I think ultimately you look at all three of those players and you can make the case for all three of them that they've not been optimized, right? And what I mean by that, for people who might not understand, is, you know, when you have the best players, you need to play them in their best positions, right? Where they are going to thrive. Of course, with being the best players, they may be able to play another position and you may be able to fit them in somewhere else. But ultimately, you want to play them in their best position to get the best out of them, right? You know, Cavani can play as a right winger. He's done it before for PSG. But you want to play him up front because that's where you're going to get the best for Cavani. You know, Lindelof has played as a CDM, but you want to play him as a centre-back. That's where you're going to get the best out of Lindelof. You know, and with Pogba, you can make the case, look, Pogba's best position on a football pitch, realistically, is on the left-hand side of a three-man midfield where he's playing as a number 8, right? And we've seen Pogba be class in the double pivot. We've seen him be class on the left, but that's not his best positions. And it's a shame because it is like he's being shoehorned into the team where we're not building the midfield around him. And with how long he's been there, you would have thought we would have built the midfield around him now. And I just don't think that's happening. I don't think it is going to happen. Same sort of thing with Donny, where he's not being optimized. He's not being played in his best positions. And so he's being pushed into other positions. And it's almost like he's set up for failure, right? Because Ollie's playing him in positions that he looks good. Like when Donny played against West Ham, he looks great, right? But that's not, you know, where you're getting the best out of Donny van der Beek, the footballer, if you know who he was before Manchester United. And so it's almost unfair to him, where you're almost like saying, you know, abandon everything you've been and what made us want to buy you and be this sort of player. It's unfair. Maybe you can make the case for Sancho in a couple months or whatnot if things don't work out. I wouldn't go as far with Sancho, but we wanted Sancho for the right, and he's been playing on the left for the majority of the time, right? What he's been offering us on the left would be so much more useful if he just moved out to the right, but he's not being put there, right? He's being put on the left. So all three of those players are players who, you know, they haven't been optimized, and when you're not optimizing your players, you're sort of wasting them. Like, what's the point, right? Like, you know, why are you buying these class players to not use them in the positions which they're best used for? So
it raises a good point before we moved on. I want to bring Donny and Cavani into the show as well, but it does raise a good point, everybody, doesn't it? That I suppose the question you could raise is, what conversations are going on when we're buying these players, or even before we buy them, we're scouting and saying they're the right player for us? Because let's be honest, we all want a CDM, and we all know that the first signing was the priority signing ahead of Varane, was Jadon Sancho. Jadon Sancho was the priority signing of the summer, and Donny van der Beek last summer was our number 1 signing as well. He was the most expensive. And for the second year in a row, we brought our number 1 signing in, and then you're sort of going, why were they priority then? What did you see in them that you can't put them in your team from the start? And it almost is a bit like you're saying there. It's almost like, yeah, we really like what you did at Dortmund and Ajax, but what we want you to do here is something completely different. We've seen something in you that's suitable for, you know, crab passing and long balls, but that's not what they are. But maybe that is an issue, because we bought Ahmad, we bought Palestri, both basically just going to go straight on loan. Tellez came in and didn't get used. Van der Beek, Sancho, I mean, Varane and Ronaldo, fine, but I wonder if there is a bit of a cohesion problem in relation to the scouting and then what we actually get, or whether Ollie just likes to bring players in and spend a few months sort of, I don't know.
It's weird, because I think Ollie's attitude to management as a whole, just from what he said in press conferences, and maybe, you know, I'm wrong for going off of the press conferences, but it reminds me very similar. It reminds me, you know, of sort of the way like Roy Keane and Gary Neville talk about their time as managers, right? And I often find them saying very similar things. And you look at some of the stuff they say, and they talk about, you know, just wanting to have a great group of lads, right? You know, ultimately, you know, it's about having a great group of lads, great group of players. And a part of me thinks Ollie is almost similar to that, where, you know, he wants just to have a great group of players, a great group of lads. And I don't necessarily know, and I can't say I couldn't put my life on that. You know, he's thinking about where he can optimize and make the best of some of these players. But then again, that's guesswork. So that's unfair. Maybe I'm wrong in that. That is guesswork. That's not, you know, fact or anything. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was an interesting comment from Christopher Barnett, which I wrote down at the start of the show, and he said, you know, at the end of the day, Donny van der Beek needs to just wait and be patient and stop moaning, and when you get your chance, take it. I thought it was an interesting thing because one of the, you know, I think it's always important to bring other sides in. And whilst a lot of people are very frustrated by the Donny situation, I do see some people saying, well, you know what, he's just got to get his head down and wait for his chance. And when it comes, he's got to take that chance. And when I've seen him play, he's not been better than McTominay and Fred anyway. We don't see him in training. I trust Ollie and Carrick and Fletcher. And then, yeah, but on the other hand, you're saying we're playing absolutely dreadful football and McTominay and Fred are rubbish. You can't have it one way or the other. And on top of that, I suppose, Levin, you know, wait for your chance. He's been here 18 months. I think 18 months. Some people don't play football at United for 3 years. So 50% of his time, he's got to wait for his chance. There's been plenty of chances for him to have a chance, I think.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because ultimately, regardless of where you stand on Donny and regardless of where you stand on Ollie, right? Because I think it almost is becoming, you know, a bit, you know, split where I'm seeing people on Twitter really, you know, going at Donny and saying, no, like, you know, we shouldn't be using him. It doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. People getting too excited. Ultimately, it's not fair. He's not played enough games. When you sign a player of his caliber and he comes into a club, you expect him to play more football than he has, and he hasn't, and that's unfair. So, you know, he's too good to be a bench player. Like, if it was like somebody who was like actual backup quality, then fair enough. But like, he is a good player. Like, he's somebody who was bossing it in the Champions League. So he's too good to be a backup. But it's almost like we've brought him in to be a backup, and with no real path to actually ever becoming a starter and a meaningful player for us. And that's unfair to him because he's too good for that.
Well, back up to the backup, really, because if you think about it, if Donny and, if McFred don't play, it's going to be, he'll bring Pogba in like he did the other night, or then he'll bring Matic on. So for the two midfield pivot positions, it's basically McTominay, Fred, Matic, Pogba, and then if anyone else goes missing, all right, Donny can come in. And then, you know, Bruno never doesn't play. Pogba sometimes plays left attack, but we've got loads of attackers. And now Lingard's getting a lot of game time. So, I mean, Donny's path to this team is just ridiculous. But, you know, as I said at lunchtime, I don't want to dwell on it. Every time I've seen him, I've been more impressed with him than McTominay or Fred. You know, I think he's a proper footballer, and I think he's better than them. But I think ultimately we're just in a position where we should have let him go. You know, then we wouldn't have to keep talking about it. And I think the sooner he goes for himself, the better. And it'll be very sad for us if he goes and performs elsewhere. But, you know, it's very clear we're into season 2 now that he doesn't want to use him.
He will. He you know, Donny van der Beek will end up leaving, whether it be on loan or whether it be, you know, a permanent deal. And he'll go somewhere where they make the best use of him. They put him in his best positions. They give him a good run of games, and he will look great. And people will go, oh, Manchester United, or oh, Ollie misused him. And it will be a whole thing. It will be. That is the eventuality, because he's a really good footballer. Like, you know, and don't get me wrong. When I say he's a really good footballer, people might go like over the top. And I'm not saying he's like some world-class player and like it's egregious that he never ever gets to play. But like, he is a good footballer. He's a better footballer than all of our midfield options, but Pogba, right? You know, so he's a good footballer, but he's not realistically. He's not going to get a chance to play here, so he should move.
I mean, this comment from Ked is interesting because I think people start to, you know, you start searching for a reason. I think you're right. You know, he's saying that sometimes, you know, there might be something that we don't know. And you then got this one saying that he maybe doesn't perform well in training. The problem is we've seen Donny play, not very often, but we've seen him play. We saw him 2 weeks ago against West Ham. And we saw him play against Wolves at the end of last season. There was a few games last season he played. You know, McTominay got man of the match in the FA Cup against Watford. And everyone's like, this is McTominay. But Donny played really well in that game. Oh, it's only Watford. Like, he's played well when he's been given an opportunity, and certainly played well enough to be given more games to build upon that, especially when you compare it to the way Fred's played this season. As for on the training ground, no, this is not true. He's not performing in training, because remember what I said to you in February when Ahmad came in. You know, we do hear things, and I was being told that, I get told quite a few things, that Ahmad was tearing it up in training, and so it came to pass 2 weeks later. Donny trains well. It's not like he's in training and he's, you know, hitting Ollie in the face with shots and stuff like that. He does train well. Nobody really understands what it's about. My theory is that if he was a 23-year-old that had played with Scott McTominay in the youth setup, he'd be playing with McTominay in the midfield instead of Fred. I just think he's easy not to pick. I think he's easy not to pick. You don't pick Donny and nothing really happens. You know, I just think he's easy not to pick. I think, you know, he's a foreign player that's come in. He hasn't got a load of hype around him like Pogba has. And when I say hype, you know, the publicity, if you drop Pogba, that's big news. You drop Bruno, that's big news. He's not a favourite like McTominay and Fred. I just think he's easy to drop. You know, for me, Levin, I've said this before. I don't know what you think. We do talk about Donny a lot, and I think that's right. But I think in a bigger way, Matic doesn't get picked, and he's clearly the only number 6 we've got. Pogba is a midfielder and doesn't get picked. It's not McTominay and Fred benching Donny. They're also benching Matic and stopping Pogba playing in the midfield as well. So, you know, there's a bigger issue here that Ollie doesn't utilise Pogba in his best position. He doesn't play his best number 6. And yeah, you know, Donny's a good player, but he doesn't play him either. There's 3 players he doesn't play who I think are all better in their own way than the 2 that we do pick regularly, because Ollie trusts them and they run around a lot.
Well, look, I will. Somebody approached me on Twitter with a theory, which I thought was pretty interesting. So I'll share, right? So you know how Romano has constantly, so you said it on this channel plenty of times, right? That like before COVID, the club, you know, were ready, understood that Pogba was going to leave. Juventus were going to come look to buy. Was it Juventus or I think it was Juventus, right? Where they were going to come in and buy. Yeah, they were going to come in and buy Pogba, right? And you know, there was an understanding at the club that you know was the case. And so that was before COVID, right? So that would have been around, you know, March, February. So you can assume they probably knew that for a while. It's almost safe to say, in my opinion, right? This is just a theory. It's almost safe to say that the club was sort of aware of Pogba leaving. And so it was like Bruno to come in. And it was like, we're going to build up, you know, almost planning ahead, right? You know, planning ahead. Obviously, COVID happens. They can't account for. They can't offload Pogba now. And so now you end up with, you know, Bruno and Pogba together when you only really intended to have one of the 2. And Donny van der Beek's brought in, right? And you could almost, and the person was basically trying to say, right, it's like, it's made more of an issue now with Pogba still being here, because I think the club anticipated Pogba was going to leave. And so if Pogba is to leave now at the end of this season, there is that pathway for Donny, is what he was essentially trying to say, where it would be a midfield where you have Bruno, Donny, and then whoever else we sign, plus Fred, someone, whoever it is. And he essentially was trying to say, right, like, look, the club anticipated Pogba to leave. Because of COVID, it didn't happen. So now we have an overloaded midfield and not the one we intended to have. And I thought it was interesting because it sort of does make sense, right? That the club would have known Pogba was leaving. So they thought, okay, let's get Bruno now instead of in summer when there's going to be a bidding war with Spurs or whoever else was interested in him. And obviously because of COVID, that didn't go to plan.
It is interesting, and it makes a lot of sense. Apart from the only thing that's dropping in my head is that basically Donny's going to have to wait 2 years, lose his job, lose his place in the international scene, and you know, basically park his career. Because there's an interesting thing about Donny as well, is that we signed him last August. The season didn't start till September, and he'd actually missed 6 months before that because the Dutch league never played again after the March COVID shutdown. They didn't come back, like, you know, the French league didn't come back either. So Donny didn't play football. Donny's basically not really played football since March 2020. And he's hardly played for us either. And in that time, he's lost his international place. He's hardly played for United. And I don't know how old he is now. I mean, we bought him at 23. He's probably about 49 now. Feels like it. But, you know, he's lost a couple of years that were crucial years for him. You know, when you're 23, you're playing in a Champions League semi-final, you're playing in a good team, you're one of the best players. Real Madrid want you, Barcelona want you, United get you. And he's lost 2 years of his career. It's very, very sad. And on its most basic level, whatever you think about Van der Beek, like you were saying, Levin, on the most basic level, coming to Manchester United is the biggest mistake of his career. Whether you blame Ollie for that, whether you blame anybody for that, he's lost 2 big years of his career that he'll never get back. And you know what? I'd be more than throwing chewing gum down. I'd be bloody fuming, especially when he wanted to go to Everton and play football, and we stopped him. It's
well, that's the big thing, Mark. Why was that move stopped? Like, I still can't understand why that move was stopped, or why it wasn't at least changed to maybe be a loan move. Like, I don't, ultimately, this whole Van der Beek situation is a mess because there's so many different factors that just don't make sense together. Like, so you can come up with some sort of reasoning, you can make a reasonable excuse as to why maybe he doesn't play, or why, it hasn't worked, but then you remember stuff like that where it's like, oh wait, he actually had a chance to leave and we blocked it. Like, why did we do it? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't.
Well, that does make sense to me. You know what it is? It's just pure what if tactics. It's like, I'm not going to use you, but if McTominay gets injured, Fred gets injured, and Matic can't play twice a week, I'll have to use you. And that's why he kept him. It's like, you're not going to go and have a career anywhere else, because if I have an injury crisis, I might need to use you. But if I don't, I'm never going to use it. Same thing happened to Brandon Williams last January. He wanted to go on loan to Norwich or Southampton. I forget. I think it was Southampton. And it got blocked by Ollie because he was like, well, what if I get an injury at left back, even though we had Shaw and Tellez, or right back? I need you. And it never happened, and he never played. And, ultimately he lost half a season.
Yeah, but it makes more sense for Williams because, let's say with right back, Wan-Bissaka, there was no backup right back. So, like, it makes sense with Williams, at least to that extent. But in the number 10 position, we have Bruno and Lingard. We know he picks Lingard ahead of him. So we have Bruno and Lingard. We have two people there. And, people might go, well, it's just two people. Bruno has never missed a game to injury in his whole career. Never missed a game to injury in his whole career, Mark. So he's Stonewall. Then you have in the midfield, McTominay, Fred, Matic, Pogba. We have a youth academy that we do want to use, right? So I'm sure there'll be youth candidates there, people like Hannibal who have been looking good in the academy, who maybe give a shot. There's so many people ahead, so you have cover for injury. So even to me, that's not even that fair. Like, if I was having a private combo with Ollie and he had said to me that was the reason, I'd say, nah, man, you got plenty of cover. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
He was for sale in the summer. I said this before. He was for sale in the summer. I don't like to say it, but he was for sale in the summer. And numerous people said it to me. But also, even if you don't believe that, look at the amount of British papers that were talking about Donny going. They wouldn't all be on that unless somebody was saying something. So it's interesting. It is interesting. I mean, I'd love him to start tomorrow. But to be honest with you, the one midfielder I want to start tomorrow is Matic. But before we talk about Everton and midfield again, let's talk about Cavani, because Cavani has been linked with a move to Madrid. Madrid want him in January. But before we talk about that, let's talk about Cavani, because, look, I wasn't too hot on getting Cavani. I'll always put my hands up when I'm wrong. I was like, he is injury prone. I'm not sure that him coming to, I thought it was a risk, but it was a risk that paid off. What I love about Cavani is that, he won't play unless he's 100%, and that's why he doesn't play much, because he's like, I'm not going to mess myself about. But then when he does play, he gives 100% and he shows his quality, which is what we saw on Wednesday. Look, it's not a shame that we've bought Ronaldo, but it's a shame that Cavani last year didn't get to play in front of the fans, because the fans love him. And I think they'd love, even that 20-minute cameo the other night, the effort he puts in. He's a fan favourite anyway. But how do we get him into this team? We were talking about Ronaldo before. How do we get Cavani into this team? Because Gary Neville said, my best front three would be Cavani, Ronaldo and Greenwood. And I laughed. I was like, oh, yeah, let's play three attackers who can't create for each other. And maybe Bruno can just do everything. But can we get Cavani and Ronaldo in the same team without going to a back five, which really, you can't be changing your bloody formation 2 months into the season?
The only way I can think of would be to go back to the system we tried a couple times last season, the sort of 4-2-2/4-1-2-1-2 narrow kind of thing that we had. And you'd play Cavani, Ronaldo up front. You'd play Bruno and Pogba as sort of the cams, and you'd get them to hold the width. And then he would play McFred, right? I'm sure other people would go, no, you don't play McFred. But he would play McFred if that was the system he was going for.
You could never do that, could you? Because Sancho, Rashford, Greenwood,
Yeah, but ultimately, like, one of those guys, someone's always missing out, right? So I think that's the way you'd almost rationalize it, because it is someone's always, missing out. But it would be hard. It would be very hard. I don't expect to see it. I expect to see Cavani continue to have sort of a similar role. And I don't have a problem. Like, I know when you see Cavani come on and he has the impact he had, you do think to yourself, well, this guy has to start, right? But in a way, I do expect him to continue to just have this like super sub role. And I think it will do him good. I think it will do us good. And hopefully it doesn't get to a stage where like it's really bad and we just need him to start games, because I actually like this role for him. When he comes on and gives that 100% he gives, Mark, because everybody else on the pitch has been tired of it, like, he just looks different like to everyone else, right? Like he brings a different level of energy that opposition can't handle. So
I've said this before. At the start of the season, I said it. I just don't. I mean, look, Anthony Martial has been called up for France. France are playing in the Nations League, whatever the crap is, next week. France have got difficult games, and Deschamps has finally sort of decided he likes Martial and he plays Martial. We don't. Whether that's right or wrong, we don't. You got Martial, Cavani, Ronaldo, Greenwood, Rashford, Sancho, Lingard, 7. If we sold 3 of them, I'd be happy with the 4 we had. We've got, we're playing Everton tomorrow. Calvert-Lewin's not playing, so Rondon's going to play up front. I mean, that's the sort of thing. With the levels of quality that we have in this football club is ridiculous. But it's a bad thing. It's actually a bad thing because you have this player in Cavani, which he'd start for most teams in Europe. But at United, I sort of agree with you. It's like, well, yeah, he's going to have to go on the bench and do 20 minutes at the end, even though he's fantastic, because I'm not a firm believer, and it doesn't surprise me that Gary Neville said it, because he played in an England team that did this. Oh, we've got Gerrard, Lampard and Scholes. Really, we should only pick one of them with a proper holding midfielder. Let's pick all 3. Let's play 2 attacking midfielders into the midfield and 1 on the left wing. And I think that's what Gary Neville's doing with his front 3 of Greenwood, Cavani and Ronaldo. Yeah, they're all brilliant. But it's like Neymar, Messi, and Mbappe. It's a football team. You need balance in it, and I don't see Cavani and Ronaldo playing together unless we do what you say, or we do a 5-3-2. But if you do a 5-3-2, your width comes from your wing backs, and you may as well not have bought Sancho, and also Rashford's not going to play either. So I don't see how it's going to work, to be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if we did whip out the 4-2-2. Or 4-2-2, system at some point again. I can't remember. Did we get better when we used it? We must have lost, and that's why we didn't use it again, right? Like we must have just lost.
We did it against.
Was it Leipzig?
Leipzig at home, and then we did against Arsenal the next game, and they battered us. Yeah, but they didn't batter us. They beat us 1-0, but they played. They played us off the park. Really, Arteta did Ollie in again.
Yeah, no. I think we might see it again if it does become an issue where like it's glaringly obvious that Cavani needs to be on, from the first minute of the game. But I don't think Ollie will feel that sort of pressure. I think Ollie will be happy because, he referenced it today. He knows what it's like to be that super sub. And I think he sees value in that because he must have saw value in himself as a player. And so I think he'll want to keep Cavani in this kind of a role. And I know there's a lot of people who are going, well, like, but Levin, look how good he was. He has to start. It's dumb to not start him. But like you sort of alluded to, you have to have balance. You have to think about these things. And I don't think Cavani's unhappy with this kind of. If Cavani was unhappy with it, then maybe there's an issue there. But we've never had reports of Cavani wants more playing time. This is what he was doing for most of last season as well. So I think he's fine with it. I think Ollie's fine with it, and I think it works the way it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd love to see Cavani and Ronaldo in the same team, but to be honest with you, I'm a big fan of Martial. A lot of people seem to think Lingard should start. I want Sancho to start. Rashford has to start. You can't start them all, and you've got to have the balance. You've got to have that balance in the team. And if Ollie can find a way that Cavani and Ronaldo start in the same team, great. But I actually think they're the same player in a very different way. I think you can only really play one of them. I think they attack the same space. We saw it in the game on Wednesday. Cavani sort of went down the middle and Ronaldo went out wide. People think, let's play Cavani and Ronaldo in the same team. You put a cross in the box, they're going to be holding hands going for the same ball because that's what they are. They're goal scorers now. So it's, Shearer and Sheringham, one of them had to be less selfish. It was Sheringham. Same with Sutton and Shearer. So if you're a 2, you can't attack the same space. And we've got 2 very good number 9s there. But we always knew that was going to happen. The midfield was going to be the problem, and the attacking positions were going to be the place where it was going to be, how is he going to get it to work? But a front 2, as Levin was saying, is difficult in the way that we've we've continually lined up under Ollie. If he doesn't play, I mean, it's his last year in Europe. We know he's going back to South America next year. He was going to go this summer, and we begged him to stay. We probably begged him to stay with the promise of first team football, which is, that. So he might just go. You know what? I like it here, but I do want to play football in Real Madrid. Although at Real Madrid, I presume he's going to do the same thing with Benzema anyway.
Yeah, I don't buy into that person. I disagree. I think if he was sold on, I think a lot of selling him on staying would have been on playing. You need to experience it in front of the fans, because I don't think there would have been as much of you're gonna be playing week in week out, because we know Oli likes Martial, and I think if it wasn't for Ronaldo being signed, I think it would have been very much the way it was last season, where it's Martial. And if Martial's not working, you use Cavani. And I just don't think I genuinely don't think Cavani has a problem with that. I think he looks very happy. Of course, looks can be deceiving, but he knows he's going back home next year. So I don't think he's in a rush. Like, that's how the Real Madrid links don't make sense to me, because he ain't in a rush to go to play in La Liga for Real Madrid, especially when, like you said, they have Benzema. Like, that don't make any sense to me. So I think he's fine with it. And I think people are very much like not overreacting. That's not the right word, but these are all things we knew at the start of the season. We knew this. That's why, like, when people are going on about this, like, we knew this. We knew Cavani was good. We saw him last season do this. Like, what he did in that Villarreal game, we saw Cavani do this. Like, we knew this already, So to me, I'm not like surprised by any of it. I just don't think we should start going, oh my God, wait, maybe we should actually find a way to start Cavani instead now. Like, nah, like, let's keep it how it is, and it will work the way it works.
I agree. I don't know what your thoughts are on the Lingard thing, but I see a lot of people say, oh, Lingard's got to start. He came on against West Ham and he scored a goal, and he came on and got an assist the other night. And I'm like, yeah, sometimes some players are a bench player. I mean, I personally think Lingard should have gone to West Ham. He'd start every game. He'd play Europa League football and he'd be their best player. But he decided to stay at United, up to him. But he's never a starter for me, and I still don't think the form he's in is a starter, because again, it's the same old thing. So Lingard's going to play instead of Bruno? No. Is he going to play instead of Greenwood? Not really for me. I mean, you might start him off the left if Pogba's going to play in the middle, but I'd rather have Pogba off the left. So, Lingard's a bench player for me, and that was all his ceiling was ever going to be at United. If he thinks he's more than that, then great, keep fighting for it. But I don't. Some people think he should start. I don't think he should, and I think it's probably the same with Cavani at the moment.
But this, people almost like, I'm not saying this is everyone, but people almost like creating more problems where the lack of understanding in role is sort of the problem with Donny right now, where Donny is someone who we all think is good enough to be a starter, and he's not starting, so people are angry. If all of a sudden people start going, oh, Lingard's been playing good off the bench, just start starting him, and then now all of a sudden the lines start being blurred between whether he's a starter or a bench player, then you have more issues. When people have an understanding, when players on a team have that understanding, you create peace within the squad, right? There's cohesion there. Because Cavani, ain't thinking, oh my God, this Ronaldo guy's starting again, man. Damn, I'm trying to... He ain't thinking that. He's thinking, yeah, Ollie's going to bring me on after an hour and I'm going to do a job. Lingard's thinking, yeah, I'm going to come on after 75 minutes, I'm going to do a job. There's no confusion there. People understand what their role is within the squad and what it is they need to do. That's what we want, right? And I just don't want people to start confusing it.
You want a player, you want to know. And Ollie wants to know that, this is not just the 11 I'm picking. With 70 minutes gone, I know I've got Cavani and Lingard who are going to go and create chaos. And they do. They don't stick to the same positions as the start 11. I mean, Lingard's so hard to read at the moment when he comes on, because he's all over the place. Like, he came on the West Ham game you were at, and I think he came on for either whoever was on the right. I think it was Greenwood. He came on the right, and then he was appearing on the left to score the goal. So he's wandering all over the place. And yeah, it's chaotic and it'll bite us on the backside one time. But at the moment, it's creating a lot of space. I mean, in relation to the game tomorrow against Everton, I think that this game, I don't know how we're going to play. I mean, it might just be another Villarreal where we don't play well, but we win. But I fully expect us to win. Have you got, the eve of this game against Everton? Are you concerned about them at all?
Nah. You know what? Everton have been one of the best teams in the league this season so far, right? And they have been really impressive. And it's I'm sure they will be frustrated that they're having to play us you know, with
Loads
a
of
very,
injuries.
very weakened team. Yeah, because they have been really, really good. But ultimately, all those injuries do just make me believe we should be able to win. We, you know, if you don't know how they're going to play, they are going to look to, they will give us possession, right? Then they've not been a possessionally dominant team. They will sit in a low block and, you know, we got to attack them. Every single game where we're playing against, it feels like we've had a good run of games against teams that play in low blocks. And I'm still waiting to see, you know, the progression and the improvement in terms of the way we play against these things. I'll be looking for more of that. Let's see. Maybe we'll go with that sort of 4-3-3 system again. Hopefully it's, you know, tweaked, and hopefully it's not, you know, McTominay in the middle where he's not showing for the ball because he just, you know, he doesn't want it. But I'm looking for improvement.
That's a good question, actually. we'll just cut off there because this is a tactical question. So Scott definitely played in the number 6. A lot of people have been saying, you know, Gary Neville again, he said McTominay and Pogba was our best midfield. I saw a lot of people saying McTominay's our best number 6. And I said, I've never seen him play well as a number 6. And I've only seen him play there 3 times. I watched him on Wednesday. He just was stood in completely the wrong position for an hour. He was like between the 2 Villarreal strikers. He wasn't showing for the ball. Do you think that was tactical, or do you think, and we had a comment from this afternoon from somebody, and I know it because I've done it myself, and they said, I used to play CDM at quite a decent level, you know, sort of non-league football. And sometimes if I was having a bad game, I'd do what McTominay was doing. I just would I'd move around, but it's a confidence thing. I didn't want the ball. But, you know, Matic comes on and instantly drops and shows for the ball and wants the ball. Yeah. Do you think that is a lack of... Because Fred's admitted it. He's done an interview and said, I'm trying to learn how to play the number 6 role and take the ball on the turn and pass it forward. It's like, oh, my God. For Manchester United. Do you think that was Ollie telling McTominay to do that? Or do you think it was McTominay sort of like, I don't want to be taking this ball and running this game?
Yeah, I don't think he wanted it. There was a couple problems with that, right? Because for one, he just wasn't showing for the ball. There were times when he could have, and it was like glaringly obvious he could have, and he just didn't. And so part of me believes he didn't want it. A part of me also believes his teammates didn't want to give it to him there either, because otherwise, if you're like Varane or Lindelof, you're going, Scott, there, stand there so I can give you the ball, right? Like, so they would have been telling him if they wanted to give it to him. So I think it's on both sides when it comes to him and his teammates. And also, he didn't have support in midfield. When you play a 4-3-3, you know, I think Ollie after the game was talking about, oh, like we wanted to play with 2 8s and a 6 or whatever and 1 6. We weren't playing with 2 8s. We were playing with 2 10s, right? Bruno and Pogba were so far forward, right, playing as 10s that even if Scott had had the ball, he had no support. He would have turned around. There would have been like 5 yellow shirt players in front of him. And what's he going to do then? Scott's not Pirlo. Well, that's the thing. Scott's not Pirlo. So what would he have done? Right? So we needed more support. Exactly. That's exactly what would have happened. He would have given it back to them and they, you know, would hit the long ball, whatever. So he needed more support in midfield. But at the same time, yeah, I don't think he wanted it. And it'll be interesting to see if he does play again in that position, whether there's change there, right? That's always what you're looking for. You're looking for change game to game.
A lot of people in the chat are saying he's learning the role, be fair to him. I'm sorry, we're Manchester United in the Champions League. We're not bloody Tottenham in the Conference League on a Thursday night. You know, you can't have a player learning the number 6 role at Manchester United at this level. You can't have that. I'm sorry. I'm not having that as an excuse. I feel sorry for the lad. I don't think he knew what he was doing. I don't think Fred knows what he's doing. But you shouldn't be put in a position where you're learning that role. Oh, Michael Carrick used to play this role. He's took me aside for a couple of days and told me what to do. It's a specialist role. You know, you're going to put Lindelof up front. I'm not saying McTominay or Fred are bad footballers, but respect the game of football. Respect the positions. Respect the greats of that position as well. You know, it tarnishes the Pirlos and the Jorginhos and the Rodris and the Fernandinos and the Carricks who played that role as much as it would bloody disrespect a Van Nistelrooy to play Lindelof up front. Number 6 is a specialist role. I used to play it. It's very, very, very specialist. You can't just say to somebody, go and play it. And I think Wednesday night showed that. And look, we've never said, it's funny this is Levin, because we get attached to this. United stand, it's their fault. Everyone thinks Donny's a 6. We've constantly said Donny's not a 6. We've literally done
shows. I've received abuse for telling people about Donny, but fair enough. You know.
But what I would say about Donny, I don't think he's a number 6. But if he'd have played where McTominay was on Wednesday, he wouldn't have done that, he would have come and got the ball.
Well,
I don't know whether he'd be good at, but he would do that, because when you see Donny play, he's pointing at people and he's shouting at people, because that's the Ajax system. So he probably would have done a better job than McTominay, because he would come and get the ball.
Yeah, we saw it in the Young Boys game. We saw it in the Young Boys game where our build-up shape was a bit different, but it was a similar thing where it was like a 3-1-6, and Donny was the 1, and he was sort of isolated there, but he was showing for the ball and trying to get the ball. But the problem once again is where he doesn't have support midfield, so he couldn't really ever do much of it. He'd often just play it, and then there'd have to be a long ball or whatever. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think people do get a bit like McTominay. I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Earlier in the show, I was talking about lack of optimization. That's another example of it. Like, that's not where Scott McTominay is at his best, right? So he's not being optimized. He's being put in a position that he doesn't really sort of have experience playing. That sort of position, Mark, you're talking about is very specialized, because, you know, you have to have plenty of experience playing. You have to have a very good understanding. You know, football, we as fans, right, we sit here and we say football's, you know, easy, it's simple to understand. A lot of these things are happening at lightning speed. You know, a split second in football could be the complete difference between a goal and not a goal, right? And so when you have a player in a position where maybe they're having to think, is this the right thing? Do I need to move here? Like, that's never going to work. Do you know what I mean? It's never going to work out for you. It has to almost be innate, right? You have to just know where you need to be. And it didn't really feel like, you know, Scott was there, but I don't think that's his fault. He's not being optimized. He's not being put in his best position. So
no, and I think, you know, you talk about Fred, you talk about McTominay, you talk about Delo. You know, I'm thinking about bad performances that we've had in recent weeks, and people make it about the individual. And I think we've transcended that. I think we've moved past that. You know, this is very much now about coaching decisions. If McTominay and Fred get picked tomorrow, a lot of people won't like it, but it's a coaching decision. There are other options. For me, Matic should play. He is the best number 6 we've got. If he picks somebody else, he's picked somebody else. And, you know, maybe Fred's been vocal about it publicly. Maybe McTominay's is nervous playing that role, because it's such an important role.
I'm sorry, this super chat is really funny from Nick. Yeah, I had an ex-girlfriend who said I was learning on the job and she dumped me. We need the finished article as much as she did, referring to Ollie here. Look, when it comes to all of this, man, I think people need to just understand that some of these coaching decisions aren't going to be things we agree with. You know what, Mark, actually, I was thinking, we've started to get a couple journalists ask some good questions here and there. We still get press conferences filled with rubbish questions. I need somebody to ask Ollie. Matic looks phenomenal in that deeper midfield role. You know, are we going to start seeing him playing there on a more regular basis? I need someone to ask him that, because has he been asked a question about Matic all season? I don't think he has.
No, like, this is the problem,
someone needs to ask him.
It becomes about Donny, but actually, you know, Paul Pogba won a World Cup as a midfielder. He's won titles as a midfielder. You're playing him on the left wing. You know, what's that all about? Matic, when he comes on, he changes the game. You know what I think Ollie would say? Well, he's getting on a bit now. He can't play more than 1 game a week. Why is he here then? You know, I just want to know why Matic doesn't play, because I very much suspect it's something to do with he can't play more than an hour a week. But if that's the case, why is he here? You know, we should have bought a number 6, because quite clearly he is our best number 6. But for some reason, we just don't pick him. Everton tomorrow. Don't forget last season what happened. 3-2, 3-3. Godfrey spinning to the camera and telling us to F off. Godfrey, we'll come in for you tomorrow. Manchester United, we don't forget. We've got to get a bit of revenge on them tomorrow.
Yeah, I just want to watch us play good football. I want to finish watching that match and, like, you know, not have to work. Because after the Villarreal game, I was excited. I was happy, right? Because it was a brilliant win, you know, in terms of that sort of finish. You know, you can't make it up. You know, that's the kind of thing you see in movies and whatnot. You know, but then at the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, we did play a bit stingy for most of the match, right? And I don't want to feel that way. I want to walk away from tomorrow going, more of that and 21's loading. That's what I want to walk away from tomorrow.
Especially going into an international break.
Especially knowing that, you know, we have the likes of Rashford coming back. I was going to say Ahmad, but we're not seeing Ahmad we're not seeing Ahmad this year. But, you know, the likes of Ahmad coming back and whatnot. Like, I want to be excited going into this sort of, you know, dry spell that we have, which is the, you know, international break. So
Don't say we don't do anything for the community. Keno wants to know if there's any good Friday night films he can watch on Netflix. So get in the chat there. I'm just trying to think what I've watched recently that was quite good.
Have you watched Squid Game?
No, I'm concerned about watching this Squid Game. I know the premise of it, and people are like, you've got to watch Squid Game, so I probably will watch it. Yeah. Is it a real game or is it an actual series? It's a film of a game, isn't it?
Well, the premise, I'm obviously not going to spoil anything, but the premise is there are people who are playing kids games for money, right? Yeah. And it's very much, they're playing these games. It's almost like someone said on Twitter earlier. So it's like they're playing like Takeshi Castle, basically. It's like a TV series where there's like people like who are doing like Takeshi Castle, but it's a bit more serious and hardcore. So you should watch it. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'll give that a go. So massive game for Manchester United tomorrow. And I agree with Levin. What I don't want tomorrow is I don't enjoy seeing clips of me moaning about an equaliser because I'm angry with the way that we've played. I don't like that. I shouldn't be doing that. And, people are right to call me out on it because I shouldn't be doing that. But I felt so afflicted by long ball and I'm so fed up. And I think I put so much stake on this season. Last season, I write off. This season, I really did believe that we were going to see a different style of football with the likes of Varane and Ronaldo in the team. And we're not. We're the same team as last year with Ronaldo and Varane in it. And that is frustrating. So, look, I'd love to smash Everton 4 or 5-0 tomorrow and play really good football because if we win that game, we're going to be right near the top. And, we've got Leicester and we've got Liverpool, we've got Man City and somebody else, obviously, before the next international break after the next one. But some really big challenges. And I embrace the challenges. I want them to be big. But, we've got to play better football. We can't just be this Moments FC, which is definitely what we have become. I totally agree with that. What was it? Well, there was something else I wanted to say. I forget what it was. Quickly, Brozovic has been linked to us. I can't remember how old Brozovic is, but he's a midfielder.
He's not that old. I'll check. I don't think he's that old.
I think he's like 28,
27 or something. He is 28.
29 in November. So he's a bit old, isn't he?
Turning 29. Well, look, he's in the prime of his career. He's won a title with Inter Milan, and he's been great. Brozovic is a really good player. He's sort of more of like a deep line sort of player, which is useful for us. In terms of like us actually getting him right, apparently it was like we want to get him at like end of his contract or something, which aligns with what we've been doing, right? Go back to the transfer window, Romana going with Manchester United looking for opportunities in the market or whatever, right? Like that's an opportunity, right? Get him in on a free. And I'll take him. Brozovic on a free, I'll take him. Look, we always talk about, hey, what if we could have got Matic at 29? Brozovic isn't Matic, but we'd be getting a 29-year-old experienced midfielder, so it wouldn't be too bad, would it?
No, the midfield has been a problem for Manchester United for a very long time. We never really replaced Keane, and then we never really replaced Scholes, and then we've never really replaced Carrick. So it's we need something in there. We've got so much quality. I said this afternoon actually, Eleven. I'm so happy with the back five. I know Maguire's injured, but I'm happy with the back five. I'm really happy with the attack, although I just don't know how we construct it. But we have got a lot of good options. It is just that. It's that centre. I'm happy with the number 10s as well. It's just that midfield 2 is the real issue at United, and we always predicted it would be. And for some reason, the club decided that they weren't going to buy somebody there, and we'll spend 74 million on Sancho, and then sort of not hit the ground running with it. But we'll see what happens. We've got to win anyway. We've got a match tomorrow. That's what it's all about. And of course, you can join us for the watch along. We'll have the road trip in the morning with Adam, and then it's an early kickoff. It's a 12:30 kickoff tomorrow. So be around a 11:30 start with the team news. Just go to bed knowing McTominay and Fred are playing in the midfield, and then when you wake up in the morning, you won't get stressed.
Please, guys, to the 6,500 people here. Tomorrow, you don't have to be frustrated and pissed off tomorrow because you already know what's going to happen. It's going to be McFred. So all the anger that you want to release in the chat tomorrow, all the Ollie out spam and all that, you can get that out of you tonight. Go to bed, wake up, and you're going to wake up to see McFred. Just accept it.
We're giving you the team news now so you can get ready for it. It's McTominay and Fred, Bruno, Pogba on the left, Greenwood and Ronaldo. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
News.
So
we've had a leak.
No frustration, no. We had a leak. Yeah.
Anyway, look, thanks everyone. We always enjoy the Friday night show, and the hardcore viewers tune in on a Friday, definitely. So make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Please do check out Driving with Goldbridge, did it with Thogden and Thogdad. Links in the video description for that. Really enjoyed that. And Levin, thanks for coming on. You've been playing a bit of FIFA today.
Thank you for having. You know what? Yeah, FIFA's infuriating. I can't wait for them to patch it. It's absolutely frustrating to play FIFA, but you know that. You all know that.
I like it, but to be honest, I'm not. I said it to somebody today. I'm not to grips with it. I'm still a bit 90%.
It's changed.
Yeah,
it's changed from this year to last year. There's an adjustment period.
Yeah, definitely is. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Have a good evening, day, or whatever you're doing, and we'll see you on the watch along tomorrow where United are going to beat Everton.